What's up, y'all? Bati here. Gonna do another little game review, hand review for Battlepoker. This one's gonna be a little bit different than the massive 3 hour one that I did last time. This one was submitted by zUnkP. This is a Sunday game we did, I think, a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, February 20th. Timestamp on there. This one's going to be a little bit different. Because of the hacks that have been developed over the past few months, we no longer have the observer view for like non-observed games. Like if you don't actually have an observer in your game, there's no way to get that observer interface in the replay. So we're going to be playing this one specifically from zUnkP's point of view. We're only going to see his cards. We're going to talk about his options at each stage of the game. We're probably going to go through a lot faster than all of like the pausing, talking about strategies, who can do what, stuff like that. There may be some downtime. There may be times where I don't have a lot to talk about. We'll see if we can get through it without it being too boring. I'm still kind of figuring out exactly how I want to do this format, but we'll go from there and see if we can have some fun. So this should be, I think it's a 125 gold game. I don't think we made this at 300. Oh, there we go. We'll see if I made it 300. I honestly don't remember. Okay. Oh, that's right. This is a Frosty Streets game from February 20th. This is a special game that Frosty puts on every once in a while. It is not a regular pub game. We are actually playing for a cash prize that only goes out to the winner. So that's going to change a lot of our strategy. We're going to be playing for the win here, not for MMR laddering. So that's where our plans are going to come from. Here we started the hand with 8 Banshees. Nothing really good. We're in third position. Definitely a check. Now we picked up 14 Siege Tanks. We have a very strong anti-ground hand here. Not great for a 7-handed game. Somebody out there is definitely going to have air. However, if it checks to us and somebody puts in a modest bet, we can possibly call. So let's see what happens. We do have Zerg 2-2 on the board. Nothing we're terribly worried about. We've talked about Zerg upgrades before. They're definitely less threatening than Terran or Protoss for the most part. This is going to be a check around. We're just going to let everything fight here. So my computer lags as it's my first game of the day. Those Banshees might actually pull off the tie here. Just need that one Phoenix. Oh no, I don't think that Phoenix is going to be enough to kill the Banshees. Maybe we have a chance. They are light though, so they're going to take bonus damage. Broodlord's just chilling. I didn't catch the unit counts. Frosticles maybe could have put in a bet here, but depends on how many Thors he had. I wasn't looking. This is going to be a long fight as we do add 10 seconds to the battle timer for every player involved past the first 2, so we're looking at almost a 2-minute long timer in game. Gonna be chilling. There's the 10 seconds. And almost everybody's going to profit 1 chip. Sunny Days gets the shaft. 39 Zerglings, second position. Not impressive. We're just going to keep playing. Or keep checking. Let it go. See what happens. We do have Zerg 3-3, something to think about. If we catch like Corruptors or Hydras, we could maybe play, but not really feeling it. Now I've talked about this in the past, the min raise. Let's discuss this a little bit more in detail about why I don't like the raise, the min raise, this early anyway. What are the reasons? Jesus, I'm taking my watch off. Keeps yelling at me over stupid shit. What are the reasons that you raise? One, obviously, you have a strong hand. You want to build a pot. You want to make money when that hand wins, right? What does min raising not do? It doesn't build a pot. It puts minimum amount of money in the pot. So you're really not profiting much of anything. Second reason to bet. You want to force people out of the pot. You think that people might be drawing. You think that You know, they might have a stronger hand than you slightly. They, you know, whatever the situation is, you want people out of the pot. What does a min raise do? Doesn't scare anybody for anything. You might get like some really crappy hands to fold, but those are the hands that, I mean, like, they're not going to win anyway. It's not like playing 8 deuce offsuit and hold'em, where every once in a while you get a miracle flop that comes 8 deuce and you take the pot. Like, if you have 4 widow mines, you're not playing 4 widow mines. You're not going to call any kind of bet. You're, you know, whatever, min raise gets it out of the way, whatever. What if you have like 30 Marines? That's a decent drawing hand. Min raise, not going to scare it off. It's going to call. It's going to look for a tanky unit in front, and it's going to see if it can get some value out of that. So the min raise accomplishes neither of those two things. So why make it? Okay? That's where we're at with the min raise. Now, later on, when the min raise represents a significant portion of the chips in play, then we can talk. But when you're literally at a table where there's 1,000 chips at the table, you're playing in a tournament, the object of the tournament is to take all the chips in play at the end, you're min raising 0.1% of the chips in play. That accomplishes nothing. Now, when the antes are at 20, and the min raise accounts for 2% of the chips in play, a little bit closer. Goofman in particular, if he had the battle cruisers first, he should have raised more. If he had the disruptors first, he should have raised more. It doesn't really matter, I think. First position, 3 Broodlords, excellent check. Not going to play this hand most likely. See what happens. Have a little bourbon here. Frosty making that well-known overbet early on that he does. So the super big raise, actually I'll talk about that in a second. Here we have 7 Liberators. Pretty decent hand. Kind of a drawing hand. If we had more Liberators, it would definitely be stronger. But 7 Liberators, especially as anti-ground, are strong enough to do some damage. So I'd like to see him, especially in late position here. Let's play this to a moderate size raise. I'd call as much as 4 or 5. If it checks to us like this, raise it. Perfect. Awesome. Two is still a fairly small raise into a pot of 8. I would, like, earlier on in this stage of the game, I've been using the 4x raise a little bit more instead of the 3x. But just in, like, the early stage of the game. Alright, 18 huddle bets. We're not super proud of it. I think this is a fine spot to check. There's not much in the pot to steal. Basically a pot-sized bet. You're mixing it up a little bit. Not the worst. I think that's a bad spot, though. The reason I think that's a bad spot is that, in theory, Papa Smurf calling from second position should have a really strong hand. Maybe he missed the draw. Maybe you have a read that he likes to draw a lot and then fold on the second card, which is totally a thing. That would make it a totally fine play. I don't know Papa Smurf that well. I don't have any personal reads on him. I would probably not have made that raise to an unknown factor, especially somebody that's at like 1842 after under 100 games. He's definitely got some skill, probably has some poker know-how, definitely has some StarCraft know-how. Not the worst spot to bluff, but I don't think it's a great spot to bluff. I think that's probably not a winning play in the long term. Let's see what happens here. I think he should probably fold the 13 Phoenix. If we were down to like 3 or 4 handed and you were in last position, you could play this, but, you know, you don't have upgrades. You've got barely half the count. Probably time to check and move on. Makes the raise interesting. This is almost definitely a position raise. Zunk is definitely a skilled poker player. He knows his shit. This very much could just be an attempt to kind of, almost like a semi-bluff. Like, you have some equity from the 13 Phoenix. Not a lot, but let's see what happens here. 3 ways to the second card. We pick up 6 lurkers. Again, really not a great situation. However, we are in last position, so we get to see what everybody else does. Put those lurkers in front if you're going to bet. I would love to see a check. I would love to see the lurkers in front regardless. Should be safe here. Alright, so while this fight plays out, let's talk about Frosty's overbet. Frosty does this a lot. It confuses people, and rightfully so. Like, you're massively betting more than what most people would in that spot. So what does this do? This means that Frosty's range, for the most part, this is not based on my personal knowledge of Frosty. This is based on like basic poker theory. When you're betting that much, your range should be fairly polarized. Either you should have a really excellent hand or a really crappy hand. Why is this? Again, let's go back to the reasons that you bet. Like the 2 main reasons you bet. You want to build a pot. You want people to fold, right? With that really big bet, you're building a big pot, huge pot. You're raising 13x the ante into a pot of 8x the ante. That's a huge overbet. So, on the off chance that somebody calls you, they're probably going to also have a very strong hand, which lets you play against that very, very well. Second reason to bet that much, get people to fold. Obviously, a big bet is scarier than a small bet. You're risking more of your chips on that single action. You're getting worse odds to call. You're going to have to win a bigger percentage of the time in order for that call to be profitable in the long term. So when you bet that much, you want people to fold. It makes sense to have a worse hand than you normally would. It doesn't make sense to make those big bets with the sort of middling hands, like drawing hands, something like 18 Phoenix, 16 Corruptors, stuff like that. Like, it doesn't make a ton of sense to make those really big bets with hands like that. So knowing that, with Frosticles, you kind of have to put yourself in a position of, A, do I have position? B, what kind of read do I have on him? This also means, technically, again, depending on stack sizes, depending on pot sizes, depending on specifically how much he bets, you can open up your range of calling a little bit. Because there's going to be so often that he makes these raises with not a great hand, your bluff catchers are going to gain a little bit of value. Now, there are still going to be times where you just get completely blown out of the water. It happens. Unfortunately, with the big bets, that's going to hurt more. The thing you have to do is pay attention to what he's making these bets with, whether you're checking the replays or looking at his hand at Showdown, and kind of make your own feel, your own read, as far as, like, how often is he betting the nuts? How often is he betting crap? It sucks to just say do the math on that, but honestly, that's it. You have to do the math on that and figure out what percentage of time you should be making that bluff catcher call. Alright, so here we are in roughly middle position, 12 queens, no upgrades. We're probably going to check this one as well. Goldie may be thinking about what she wants to do. Makes the raise. We should probably fold this. Yep. Re-raise. Now, this min-raise is a little bit interesting. What you're basically doing is trying to rope Goldie into calling here with this min-raise, but you are denying odds to the rest of the table to really be able to call. Like, for Goldie, it's only 4 chips more. For the rest of the table, it's 8 more. So it's a significantly bigger call for everybody on this side of the table than it is for Goldie. The raise works, which does 2 things. It does keep Goldie in the pot. It builds you a little bit more of a pot and forces everybody else out. Great. It also gives you position. Papa Smurf folded. I folded. You are now the last person to act on the second card, guaranteed. So you get to see what Goldie's going to do when she makes her action. If Goofman or Frosticles came along, you would also get to see what they did first. So it makes it a lot easier for you to play against your opponents. Here, Sunny Days makes a pretty standard raise, betting about 2/3 of the pot. Let's see what Goldie does. Sunny days. Actually, I like to play on both sides here. I think this is pretty standard pot. Hiders are not an amazing card, but they are okay. With the ghosts in front of them, I think you do enough DPS and counter enough spellcasters to where that's a fine play. Goldie's going to win a nice little pot here. Move up to about 156 in chips. Alright. We have DTs. DTs are a wonderful, interesting hand that are a lot of fun to play, or they're very frustrating to play. Very standard raise from Zunk. Let's get some chips in the pot, see who wants to play. No takers so far. Might just take it down. Frosty calls. Now, for Broodlords, we're essentially just playing the Dark Templar. However, we do at least have a backup air unit. It's always nice to have an air unit because they're a little bit harder to kill. More stuff just hits ground than air or air and ground, so we're a little bit safer there. Still, though, basically, we're banking on the fact that Dark Templars are either going to probably split us the pot, sometimes occasionally win us the pot, or we're going to get countered and die. I would have personally liked a bigger raise here. You're betting 9 into 33, which is like 3.5 to 1. A lot of hands are going to call here that tie you. A decent chunk of hands that counter you are going to raise you here so you can fold safely. Ravens obviously are going to raise you here. Easy fold. Some Oracle hands. God, I'm blanking on the rest of the detectors. Let me cheat and pull up Discord real quick. Hold on. I'm having a moment. Banelings. Ghost. Raven, Oracle. Okay, there we go. High Templar, definitely going to raise. Disruptors. Some Disruptor hands can raise. Some Infestor hands can raise. Not many. Ghost definitely. Raven definitely. Yeah. So the point is that, like, some of the times that we're beaten, we're going to get raised, we can safely fold. We're going to get called sometimes when we're beaten. A lot of the times, though, when we tie here, we're going to get a fold with a bigger bet, which should be your aim most of the time when you're playing naked DTs. If you have a hand that synergizes with DTs, or you have one of your own counters or detectors of DTs, you can play it a little more aggressively, hope for a call, whatever. But when you're playing just naked DTs, your goal is not to chop the pot at showdown. Your goal is to make everybody else fold their hand so you take the whole thing and nobody knows you had DTs. So a raise like this, only giving your opponent a whole 3.5 to 1 odds on the call, is not very effective. I would have liked to see a raise of like 20 to 25 here, I think. Let's see what Frosty does. He just lets it go. Okay. Interesting. I wonder what Frosty had there. Third position, 3 Infestors, easy fold. Not a question. Gonna let this go. Have a little bourbon. Eight queens, 0 help. We do have suited 1-1, but we're not particularly thrilled about it. Queens are the only units that are going to take advantage of the 1-1. We don't have enough of them. Let it go. Frosty making about a half pot bet. Takes it down. Frosty's reputation precedes him. Well, let's take a second and put something in perspective here. when we're talking about the different phases of the game, a lot of this has to do with your stack size. In particular, in reference to the number of bets you have left. It doesn't really matter, like, your static number of chips. Like, here, we start with 125. In the World Series of Poker, you start with, like, 30,000. Like, nobody gives a shit, like, oh, I lost 15,000 chips on this hand. Like, okay, in relation to what? If the blinds were, like, 1,000, 2,000, and you lost 15,000, that's a small pot. If the blinds are 1 and 2, and you lose 15,000, holy shit. First of all, that's a crazy fucking hand. Somebody was betting, like, stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks. But anyway, when we're talking about a tournament, and again, we're going back to the style of, like, we have to remember that your strategy in a tournament is to win all the chips. Your payout methods, like, MMR is going to be different than, like, a traditional poker tournament payout method. It's going to have different math involved. You're going to make different plays, but the general idea is still the same. Win all the chips. When you're playing at 1 chip per ante with 125 stack, everybody has a shit ton of chips to play with. It's a lot. You're not going to play a lot of meaningful pots that early on. You're going to have to overbet some. You're going to have to trick some people. You're going to have some people make some really questionable calls to make a significant number of chips in the early game. That's why it's generally recommended that early on in a poker tournament, such as a sit and go, such as what Battlepoker is by default, you should play fairly tight, conservative, but aggressive. Play your good hands. Don't play many drawing hands. Don't play bad hands to a bluff. The reason for this is that when you win those hands, they're not going to be very consequential compared to what you can win later. Let's look right here. Like, for example, 7-handed table. When we started out, antes were 1. Pot size was 7. Less than 1% of the chips in play. Now, with the antes up to 4 times as much, 28 chips in the pot to start off with, 2.8% of the chips in play are already in the middle of the table. That's a huge jump. It's still not as big as it's going to get later as the antes continue to grow exponentially, but at the moment, we're playing for 4 times the chips than what we did, 10 minutes ago. So everybody's effective chip stack, it's gone up and down a little bit, and everybody's not exactly at the 125, but effectively everybody's chip stack has been cut into a quarter of the size. This drastically changes how you approach the game. Something I haven't talked about a lot in Discord or in, like, poker videos, stuff like that, are not just pot odds. I've covered a lot of that. But there's a concept called implied odds. Implied odds are kind of an extension of pot odds. When you're talking about pot odds, you're talking about specifically about what's in the pot versus the bet, right? It's a ratio. Like, if there's 100 chips in the pot, somebody bets 20. Well, if there's 75 chips in the pot, somebody bets 25. Now, there's 100 chips in the pot, the bet is 25, you're getting 4-1 on the call. You need to be right 5 times, or you need to be right 1 time out of 5 to make that a break-even call. If you're right more than 1 out of 5 times, it's a profitable call. Now, with implied odds take into account your pot odds, but they also take into account what you could potentially win should you get a favorable card. So let's take that Marine example we talk about all the time with drawing hands. Let's say that antes are at 5. You still have 125 chips in your stack. Your opponent still has 125 chips in your stack. So you have 25 bets effectively. You raise it to 20, so 4 bets. Your opponent re-raises you to, let's say, 55, okay? Without knowing the math for, like, the units you can draw off the top of my head, that's pretty close to what I would say is not profitable. Could be a little bit, pot odds wise, probably not profitable in the long run. Now, let's take into account what happens when we hit what we want with those Marines. Let's say we draw, like, 8 Ultralisks, or what else do we want to put in front of there? We could do, like, 25 Corruptors. We could do 25 Vikings. Like, we could do 8 Thors. Something tanky, something with versatility, something that's really going to help those Marines just cut through everything, right? Now you have the possibility, if your opponent has the hand that's strong enough, that's as strong as you think it is, of taking their entire stack. You're no longer worried about just the pot odds. You're willing to take a slightly bad call for the possibility of stacking your opponent, right? That's what implied odds are. So when we recommend early on, play your tight, play tight, play aggressively, pick your good hands, don't play bad hands, straightforward poker, right? Fine, great. If you get into a situation where you have that drawing hand and you feel like you can get somebody to pay you off if you hit, that's where your implied odds come in, and it should absolutely be worthwhile for you to make that play. However, if you don't think you're going to get paid off when you hit that strong hand, it's not worth it. Stay out of the way. The whole point I was getting into with the implied odds is that as chip stacks diminish in relation to the size of the pot, your implied odds go drastically down. Earlier, when the antes were at 1, we could stack somebody for 125 big bets, 125 antes. That's awesome. You can definitely play drawing hands in that situation if you think they're going to pay off. If your opponent is a nit, somebody who's just folding all the time, only plays the strongest hands, it's not worth it. Don't play those hands against that type of player. They're never going to pay you off. You're going to lose money over the long run. Don't do it. Now, again, as the antes grow, chip stacks get smaller, implied odds get cut down, you have to play more on the pot odds, and in particular, you have to play something called ICM, Independent Chip Modeling. Basically, let me back that up. The traditional definition of ICM takes into account that, prizes in poker are very top-heavy. If you min cash, you make, the bottom of the top 15% of players that get some kind of money, you're making, 10% of your buy-in. You go to the World Series of Poker, you play the 10K main event. If you min cash, you're getting paid out, 11K and change. So, yeah, you make a little over 10% of your buy-in back. If you win the World Series of Poker, 7.5 million, 8 million, 9 million, right? Huge return on investment. So independent chip modeling is the concept that in a poker tournament, because of the way the payouts work, your last chip is insanely more valuable than... Okay, rephrase. The value of your last chip, your last single chip, becomes insanely more valuable than the value of each individual chip if you're sitting on 100 big blinds. You simply don't get the same expectation of chipping up that high in a tournament until you get to the very end of the tournament. Therefore, there's not a whole lot of value in building a big stack early on. You want to wait until later on when the blinds are big, the pots are big relative to the number of chips in play. That's when you start tryharding and trying to win as many pots as you can, because it gives you a much better expectation at the end of the tournament. You're going to beat more people, your payouts are going to go up exponentially as you get closer to the final table, and then as you ladder up at the final table, obviously. That's not quite true in Battle Poker, because as the MMR system works, your rewards for moving up do not exponentially grow as you move up. They stay static. Each person you beat is worth X number of points. X doesn't really change a whole lot. That also doesn't really apply to a winner-take-all scenario. In this situation, we are playing purely for a chip EV situation. If the math says that this is a profitable call, then it's a profitable call. That's it. You're playing for every chip in the tournament. There is no second place prize. You need to play for the win. So, having said all that, as these antes continue to go up, we are now at 4, so it's 4, we have a quarter of the starting chip stack size that we had. Those implied odds go down. We have to play more straightforward poker. We're going to have to be a little bit more bold with our bluffs as this continues to escalate. I think I covered everything I wanted to talk about there. Goodness, that was a tangent. Let's get going again. 11 Swarm Hosts, playable in late position. We're here in second position. I don't like a call here. Do not like the call. 11 Widow Mines, first to act. Again, we're not gonna play around with this one. Let's see if we can. Papa Smurf raises, Goofman raises, Papa Smurf all in, Goofman all in. Papa Smurf with the Ravens and Battle Cruisers. What a hand. Goofman out in 7th. No Frosty's treats for you, sir. Alright, so 12 Ravens. Definitely a playable hand. We're in last position, so that makes it even better. Let's see what everybody else does. Papa Smurf does again raise to 12. I would definitely like to see a re-raise here to about 35 to 40 all day. Call and call. Alright, so this is why I don't like the call here. Sunny Days gets in crazy odds to come along, right? With Ravens, especially this low count of Ravens, we are purely looking for a one-on-one. Ravens do not have longevity in a fight. They drop their turrets, they cast Interference Matrix, and then they're out of mana. If that's not enough to win you the fight, you're probably screwed. So we want to do everything in our power, especially with a kind of low Raven count like 12. We want to do everything in our power to get this sucker heads up right off the bat. There is kind of a strategy with Ravens to where you want to call a raise, let a couple other people in, and then blast off on the second card, try to force everybody out with the assumption that players like to not play back at you if they miss their second card. They're not going to re-raise you. They're not going to call as a bluff catcher. They're just going to fold right out and not even pay attention to the hand. Can work sometimes. This is a very high skill table. Unless I had specific reads on the particular players that I'm playing with, I would not rely on that. I will say the current meta for Battle Poker is that you're not going to get 3-bet a lot. Actually, you're not even going to get re-raised a lot. The meta is a lot of like single raise, call, 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 second card, single raise, call, call. You know for a fact if you get re-raised on that second card when you make that bet, you're done. Like, it's very rare somebody's going to actually bluff at you with that. So that's why I don't like this call and then reevaluate on the second card play. Here, however, we did pick up 22 Corruptors with Zerg 2-2. Crazy tanky. Ravens can kind of play in a support role. Let's see what happens with the first two players, and we'll go from there. Sunny Days is pretty committed. Okay, Sunny Days is 100% committed if you raise this. And you... 84 in the pot. 30, 30. So you're getting, like, I mean, there's no reason to ever fold here. We're never folding. I don't think we're ever folding. The problem... No, let me think this through. There is a fold here. Sometimes. The problem is that we have so much equity from the Ravens in that if we have any idea at all of getting this into a heads up, we probably should give it a shot and see what happens. The other problem with that plan is that getting heads up probably going to mean an all in. And here's why. If we raise enough to put Sunny Days all in, it's going to be a raise of 45 on top going to 75 all day. Sunny Days is already committed. Sunny Days is going to be in this pot. We're going to raise it to 75 all day, 45 more, 45, that makes it 129. Yeah, Sunny Days is getting odds to call this pretty much all day. When Sunny Days calls, Papa Smurf is getting even better odds to call. So, for us to, like, we can't just raise Sunny Days all in to deny Papa Smurf the odds to call as well after Sunny Days goes all in. We have to go all in ourselves. How confident are we in a 3-way with 22 Corruptors and 12 Ravens? Not very. So we want to have a pretty decent read that Papa Smurf is going to fold if we go all in, right? Problem is that if we go all in, that's 163 all day. So 133 on top. Papa Smurf can call just to try to knock both of us out. and still have like 110 chips behind. Not great, but he can still play. Having said that, if you're going to play this hand here, I think you need to go all in. I really do. As it is, I don't think calling is an option. I don't think raising to 75 is a great option. It needs to be an all-in or fold, which is why I think there is a fold here. It's going to depend on your read of Papa Smurf. Like I said, again, I think with Sunny Days' raise here to 18 to 30, Sunny Days has so few chips behind there all in, and there's no question about it. They should be doing whatever they can to get this all in. Let's see what zUnkP does. Thinking. Calls it. Don't like that call. Yep. Oh, the mines. Oh, that hurts. And the ghosts, of course, shutting down the Ravens. Yeah, we're just screwed here. Papa Smurf definitely had a strong hand. Sunny Days was not as strong as I thought they were, but still, I ain't gonna get taken down. I think I actually like Papa Smurf's play here. That he won the maximum. I mean, I don't think Sunny Days is, well, if Papa Smurf goes in, Sunny Days probably calls. Maybe that would have been the play. I'll have to go back and think about that some more. Anyway, moving on. 17 Marauders, Terran 1-1 on the board. Not a great situation, but we are second to last act. Frosty makes a 4x raise. We should probably just let this go. Yeah. Papa Smurf, we've seen, been fairly active here. Calls in first position, checks second card. Frosty probably going to make a big bet here. Very big bet, twice the size of the pot. Papa Smurf should be calling with nutty hands, calling with, I don't know. I'll have to think about that. Frosty again, that very polarizing play with the really big bets. All right, 21 queens. We can definitely play this here. I wouldn't mind a raise to 18. I don't like the raise to 12. I don't think we're quite at high enough ante levels for that to be effective. With queens, you're okay with it heads up. You're okay with it multi-way. Like, it's a nice versatile hand. You can go whatever way you want to with it. 19 add-ups, not... I wouldn't call this a betting hand still. Like, I'm getting 5-1 and I'll call here. That's huge. Yeah, see, I called that really wide, and I actually was pretty right, I think. I don't think I'm going to win this. It should be a tie, but... yeah, we'll tie this. Speed it up a little. Try to catch up on some lost time for me rambling on and on and on. Alright. Let's see here. 3 oracles. We're going to let that go. Speed things up. Papa Smurf raised to 18. Being active again. Takes it down. 13 Corruptors. Second position. Not good. All in from Sunny Days. Only 5 bets left. I'm going to cheat and look at Sunny Days' hand. Let's see here. 4 mortals. So that was a total bluff. Okay. This is a totally fine spot to bluff at. You're not thrilled with your position in Sunny Days' spot. Like, you still have Papa Smurf, me, and Frosty to act after you. You at least had Goldie and zUnkP check to you, so you have 2 of the 5 other players out of the way. The main reason this is okay is that you still have enough chips to make a pot-sized bet. Someone's going to have a pretty decent hand to call that effectively. You're still gaining a decent amount of fold equity from the amount of chips that you're shoving in the pot. Should a decent amount of time just let you steal the antes, double your chip stack, buy you a little bit extra time. Definitely a good play. Let's go back to zUnk's spot here. See how much longer we have on this. Shit, I'm going to have to speed up a little bit. Not that much. Okay, so we're back here with... Answer this. Alright, so we're going to raise under the gun here, first to act with 17 DTs. You definitely need to make this play a decent amount of the time. Like, you should have some amount of raises from first position with your strongest hands. You should make a few raises from first position with some drawing hands. And, like, on super rare occasion, throw a bluff in there. But with DTs, you know, we're trying to thin out the herd a little bit, get rid of some players. First position raise... 3x doesn't look too fishy. Strong hand like DTs, let's do it. Papa Smurf, at this point, you know, we've already commented a little bit. He's being active. He is the chip leader. He has the chips to do this and try to push people around. We need to be aware of that, how that's going to affect his range, play accordingly. He should be playing a few more hands than he normally would with that many chips. Let's see here. 16 Ravens. Oh, that's huge. We need to... So, this is... Okay. I like this play. Here's why. Normally, you don't want to be the one betting out of position. Of course. However, we already let out pre-second card. I keep saying flop. Sorry. Pre-second card we let out on the first card. We got called by Papa Smurf. If we check, unless he really thinks that we are absolutely just bullshitting or he binked a huge second card... he's just going to check behind. So for us to make money off of this hand, we need to lead out and be aggressive. Raising 30 into a pot of 60, perfect. Half pot bet, love it. We should check a small amount of the time because we obviously don't want to give away the fact that like we're all like you never keep stumbling over my words. I've said this in like my strategy tips little subsection of Discord. Good poker players never do the same thing in a spot every time. You should not always lead out under the gun with your best hands. You should check them some amount of time. The reason for this is that if you always raise when you have a good hand in first position, every time you raise in first position, everybody else can go, oh shit, they got a good hand. Getting out of the way unless I have the nuts. If you, on occasion... show a bluff from first position or show that like you had a shitty first card and then banked a good second card and played it accordingly, people that are paying attention are going to have to go, oh, well, there's that one time he checked like 25 Ravens in first position. Just because he checks the first card doesn't mean I can just bet into him and take it down. I'm going to have to respect the fact that he checked sometimes with a good hand and not bet into him, which is bullshit. Anyway, yes, this is a good play. I like it. We are going to continue here. Let's see what Papa Smurf does. Great play. Easy money. Loving it. Good stuff. Alright, I'm going to pause here. We are going to come back to this video shortly on hand 17. Yeah, just try to break these up a little bit, and I actually have zUnkP on Discord right now. We're going to go through a replay together, and then I'm going to come back and finish this one. So, yeah, hopefully this has been a little bit helpful. I will come back and finish this later. See y'all in a little bit.